Justin Trudeau has stepped down as Prime Minister of Canada and leader of his Liberal Party. For more about what led to this and what happens now, Keith Baldrey, global TV political journalist from British Columbia, Canada, joins me now for more. Keith, thanks so much for joining us and making time for us in what must be a busy day for you. We know Justin Trudeau has been suffering from poor popularity in the polls, 20 points behind the Conservative leader. What's your reaction to this earlier press conference?
Yeah, very anticlimactic. This has been building for months, if not even more than a year. His popularity has plummeted over time. He won a minority government in 2021. He actually had fewer votes than the Conservatives did back in 2021. So he's been hanging on in the minority status for some time, but his own personal brand, his own personal appeal has really taken a hit over time. And things really started to accelerate about 3 weeks ago in terms of pressure on him to step aside when his finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, who had also been his deputy prime minister and his staunchest ally in the cabinet, suddenly resigned in a sort of a torrent of bad publicity for him, blasting his leadership and certain policies that he recently trying to implement, such as a tax holiday on the general sales tax and a $250 check rebate for Canadians that's supposed to come in the spring. And when she quit, that really sort of sealed his fate, I think. And what had been building for months really accelerated the last 3 weeks. And we saw what played out this morning, which is his resignation, but not effective immediately. He's prorogued Parliament until March 24th, and he's going to stay on as leader until a new leader is chosen. We don't know how that process is going to work, so we're sort of in suspended animation here in Canada. He remains Prime Minister, but sort of in a lame duck fashion. Again, it'd be interesting to see who his successor is and whether they can fare any better against his Conservative opponent, Pierre Poilievre, who's been leading the polls for well more than a year now.
How much of the Donald Trump factor is in play here in this decision that we saw today?
I don't think it was a factor in his decision to step down, but perhaps in the timing that it was. We're now faced with Mr. Trump coming into the presidency in the White House on January 20th. He's promised or threatened, if you want to use that word, a 25% tariff on all Canadian goods coming into the country. That would have a crippling effect on the Canadian economy. And that's one of the chief challenges for Mr. Trudeau or whoever replaces him as leader is dealing with Donald Trump. But I think this may have expedited his decision to step down earlier than later and try to hang on in the face of a Trump presidency. Trump has been mocking Justin Trudeau on social media for weeks now, calling him Governor Trudeau, the governor of the 51st state of the United States. So his personal attacks on Justin Trudeau may have been a factor in the timing here, but the ultimate decision, I think that was really made when Chrystia Freeland bailed as finance minister. That basically removed all the cards from his deck.
And listening to that press conference earlier, he seemed like he didn't want to deliver that speech. Do you think that Justin Trudeau still thinks he's the best person to lead the party in the next election?
I think he does. I think he also thinks he's the best person to face off against his Conservative opponent, Pierre Poilievre. You have to give Mr. Trudeau credit. He certainly has performed well in election campaigns. He's a good campaigner. He's a good communicator. But I think his staff and his aides probably finally got through to him that those sunny ways, as he used to call them, and he used to be described as, is certainly worn off on Canadians, and that he's not seen as sort of cutting through public opinion like he did in the last couple of elections. So I think he doesn't want to admit that he's not the guy to lead the party against Pierre Poilievre, who I think he really has a personal dislike for. We're told from his staff in Ottawa that he really wants to take on Poilievre the next election, convinced he can beat him. But I think reason and a different analysis finally got through to him at the end of the day, particularly when his finance minister quit, who had up until that point been his staunchest ally.
Keith Baldrey, an interesting time for Canada, that's for sure. Thanks so much for joining us.